we are really good about learning from our mistakes.
We never ever repeat them, and I nail the introduction every single time.
Exactly. We're never like, well, this we messed up here a lot. Let's change things up.
It's like
No,
game tape, right? Like football. You look back at game tape, except when we're watching, we're like, uh-huh, uh-huh. So you guys are making the same mistake you guys made in the third episode. Uh-huh, uh-huh. So let's go
the
ahead and do that again.
yeah, the first 100 episodes is still part of the not a strong start period. We're still in the start
Yes.
period.
Yes. Now we're
So,
just strong start. That's it. We could
yeah,
rebrand as a strong start.
exactly. And by episode 500, we'll have this nailed down.
Exactly. See, like, okay. For instance, welcome back to Not a Strong Start, a podcast by filmmakers who talk movies, television, and episode by episode remain consistently average. I'm your host, Daniel DeSangre. Even though I've done this 99 times, still forgot to change my nickname.
We got to keep them on their toes, okay?
Exactly.
I am not the host. You two can come in, you stay out.
You're not even good enough to get in the club. So,
Absolutely not.
yes.
Hey, I can't say anything though because for like the stay tuned and a couple episodes, I ended up taking the intro role. Let's just say my intros are not the crispest things around. So
They're getting there. You just got to iron them out a little bit. That's all right.
uh,
But in this week's episode, we want to talk about 2023 television shows. So, like, we want to do like a recap. Like, what are two of some of our best that we recommend to our listeners, and one that, not so much. You could stay out. But first, we're gonna hit you with the current event.
something that I was reading recently is they interview Robert Downey Jr. And he was saying that some of his best act, at least for him personally, his best acting performances came in the MCU in the role of Tony Stark and Iron Man. But he feels it doesn't get the recognition because of the genre and because it's comic book movies. He doesn't get the credit or the respect or at least the recognition of having great performances when it comes to it. What are your thoughts on that?
So I feel comic book fans give him the respect, right? And I felt like this was a big resurgence for his career. So that's what kind of helped skyrocket him and get him back into the limelight. Sure, they're not typically going to give you Oscar nominations for these type of movies. I felt like he acted fantastic in them, obviously, right? Because I mean, he is Tony Stark. At least it feels like it. I know he's gone on record and said that's a character. I am not him. Like I'm nothing like him,
Hmm.
but it's that little quippiness, the quick wit that he has on the spot. Like he's so good at that. I can understand where he's coming from, but I feel like we as watchers, we've given him his kudos and his flowers. I mean, I thought he was great in that. He was great in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which is kind of part of that early resurgence for him. So I thought it was good. How about you?
No, I agree, and yeah, of course, the comic fans, or at least the MCU followers, do give him his flowers when it comes to it, which is um what he was able to do with that character, regardless of how it was written, he executed it. What he was able to do with that character is what made the end of the phase three, the culmination of those like 10 plus years of material, what made that work in Endgame was him and his performance. I mean, not just him alone, but that final scene with him there, like that hit a lot of people. I saw it multiple times in the theater, and you just hear sniffling and like all over the place
Yeah.
there. You had grown ass men, women, children. I think there was even a dog in there whimpering at one point.
Yeah.
Based out his performance, if he was not putting out stellar performances to make us really care about this character throughout those first three phases, that would not have hit that potent. Which is why when they talked about possibly bringing them back, I'm like, don't ruin it. Like that was like the meme says, cinema,
Yeah,
right? Was
exactly.
cinema right there. I just think back even like the scene in like Civil War when he finds out that his friend, Captain America, has been hiding the fact that he knew who the murderer of his parents were. And just like the pain that scene alone, The movie itself, not one of like top three MCU movies, but that scene is a top like 10 MCU scene just for the context and the performance that he put on.
Yeah, and it's I love it because it's also reminding people who Robert Downey Jr. is. You know what I mean? He's always been a phenomenal actor, man. Even when he was back in the 80s and you saw him like a lot of those type of 80s movies, he was always really good and he had that charismatic charm to him. So when with Oppenheimer, you know, when seeing him get his kudos for that, it's awesome, man. Like I love that he's getting the level of respect that he deserves because he really is a fantastic actor.
And I think at the end, the thing to learn from that is as a whole, we need to appreciate great performances, regardless of what type of movie, what genre, who the movie is meant for. A great performance is a great performance,
Yeah.
regardless of that context. We should not disqualify or diminish anyone's performance because of the type of movie that it is.
Exactly. So, speaking of great performances, let's get into our topic. So, we want to talk about some of these TV shows, which undoubtedly has some great performances, which is the reason why we want to highlight them as some of the year's best. And we know with television, you know, with movies, you tend to get a lot more movie viewers because it's a quick 2 hour commitment. You're in, you're out, you can move on with your life. With television, a lot of people, we all have limited times. You know, we're busy people. And I know that there's still some shows of 2023 that I still haven't watched yet that I want to get to, but there are some that nonetheless are fantastic, and I really want our listeners to check them out if they haven't yet.
Exactly. Yeah. And like you mentioned, the thing with the show is like with a movie, you have um more more room for error because it's such a shorter time frame. With a TV show, let's say it's 8 episodes, you can nail 6 episodes and screw up just 2 episodes, and that lowers the bar for that show in there, and can even probably make you angrier than a bad movie was because now you used up like 6 hours of your time and they didn't nail the ending, regardless how good the rest of it is. While a movie, you might be angry, but it was like, all right, you didn't nail the last 30 minutes of an hour and a half movie. I only used up 2 hours of my time. I don't like it, but it's better than spending like weeks watching a show and then the ending doesn't hit. I'm gonna start right off the bat with one of my favorite shows of the year. That kind of came out of nowhere. I remember we had it on one of our Stay Tuned episode, and I was like, all right, I'm curious. I'm gonna give it a try. And that is Silo on Apple TV. That stars Rebecca Ferguson, Tim Robbins. Um, it's basically the premise of it is it's a world where everyone lives in a huge underground silo. That's where civilizations are in the silo because the outside world is toxic and unlivable. Civilization's been down there for so long that no one knows how the world even got like that. So it's been an extended period of time in there. This show so good 'cause you get great performances. The show also moves at a good pace. Keeping the mystery of like, wait, what is really going on? Who's telling the truth? What's a lie? Is it really toxic out there? Is it not? Keeping that mystery, uh, throughout the whole thing while still providing you enough answers throughout to keep your attention. So they're not pulling a Lost where it's just like question, another question. Then you're 40 questions deep and you've only gotten two answers. This it disseminates all of that in a good pace. Like, hey, here's a couple more questions, but here's a couple of answers to the old questions and just kind of builds off of it. And that's what made the series so good. And I can't wait for season two. Rebecca Ferguson killed it. Tim Robbins, you know what you're gonna get from Tim Robbins. He always nails it too. So I definitely recommend Silo. If you're a fan of sci-fi thrillers with a little bit of drama, this is the one.
Yeah, I haven't seen Silo yet, but I know you've mentioned it before, and you definitely mentioned in the chat and you recommended it. So that one I'm definitely going to check out. It's great to see Tim Robbins, though. Like I always smile every time I see him. He's one of those ones that he was acting for a good, I mean, he's been acting for a long time now, but he was in a lot of stuff and it's kind of slowed down a little bit. So I'm assuming it's just because maybe as he's getting older, he's kind of taking his time, possibly, and he's maybe a little more selective of his projects. So the fact that he's attaching himself to something like this, awesome. That speaks very volume about the quality of the
It was
work.
good, and he does. I'm telling you, he does not let you down. And then you also have some other good people in there. Like you have Will Patton's in it, and
Ooh.
Will
Hmm.
Patton's not gonna shortchange you too. And
Yeah,
you also have um Friend Zone in there from
which
Game
one?
of Thrones, Sir
Oh,
Friend Zone.
yes. So I went with one that we talked about on the show a lot, The Last of Us. So that one, phenomenal show. I loved it. I didn't play the video game, or I think I played it a little bit, but I didn't play the entire video game. So my experience is just from a TV show aspect of it. I knew that the video game had a huge following. I can understand why. If the video game's anything like the TV show, it's fantastic. So this is starring Pedro Pascal, who's Mr. Everything, like the guy's like in every project it seems like now, and then Bella Ramsey, as we know her from another Game of Thrones alumni. But it's a drama. It's about Joel and Ellie, a pair connected to the harshness of the world they live in, are forced to endure critical circumstances and ruthless killers on a track across a post-outbreak America. What's fantastic about this show is that at least for somebody like me, I wasn't sure if it was going to be something like a Walking Dead type, where you see like a lot of the monsters and things that they're tackling. It wasn't that. It was very drama. It was phenomenal acting, first of all, and the writing is fantastic. The cinematography was great. And then even when we did our season review on The Last of Us, if anybody wants to take a look at that, we have it on our channel, but we kind of break down the show a little more. But on that one, we had that standalone episode that was just so freaking
Episode
fantastic.
3. I remember
Episode
the
three.
episode. That's how good it is.
That's how good it is. That was one of my favorite TV like episodes of a show in a very, very long time. It was just so beautifully crafted the way that they did that. And the cinematography on the show is fantastic, the editing, the pacing, but it's the acting, it's the way that they really delve into the characters. And again, I know I haven't played the video game, and I'm sure the video game delves into the characters, but I find it hard to believe that they go to that extent of the characters as they did in this TV show. I mean, did they? Like to
Yeah.
that extent?
See, I played the video game. When it comes to your major characters, you do get that in depth. I mean, because you're playing that game is, over 30 hours in
Oof.
there. So you're gonna get a lot. So you do get a lot from the two main characters. But that side character you see in episode 3, it does not go into that depth. That was changed for the better, where they actually created their own story for it, which made a character that was a throwaway, unlikable character in the video game into a very interesting, likable character that you wanted to know more from. And that's the thing with this. I was worried when this came out because this isn't like doing Mario Brothers or doing like Sonic or anything like that. This game is based off of a story. It's a playable movie. That's what the Last of Us is. So I was like, how are you gonna translate this into a live action show while giving me something that I'm not getting from the game already? Because I already played the movie. Like, how are you
Yeah.
gonna keep me interested? General audience is okay, but me, the consumer who has played the video game. And it was a great adaptation because it captures the elements of the games, satisfying that little itch from us gamers, while it still makes enough changes to keep it interesting. And it even made changes to make things that might not translate well to a movie that works well in the video game, changing those things to be like, okay, no one wants to see someone search for 10 minutes for clues inside of this room. So they're like, let's change the scene up to actually make it interesting and flow better. They were really good about that efficiency of translating video game elements into what would work within a TV show.
Yeah, and I know that those certain scenes I saw one of them being where they're driving in the vehicle in the truck and you see the when the chaos is ensuing and you see the plane crash in episode 1, I can tell some of that stuff was taken from the video game because the way it looks and the way it's shot, you can get the high intense scenes and the moments of that. But again, the way that they filmed it and the way that they set it up, it visually was so compelling, and that I think the fact that they adapted it from the video game only helped strengthen the TV show, in my opinion, because they didn't have to really craft everything. They were able to take some of the best elements and then expand upon that, and then putting it on a medium that we can see. And of course, casting Pedro Pascal. Pedro Pascal is everywhere because the dude's freaking fantastic. He's so charismatic, in his acting, and it reads even in this post-apocalyptic world. He's still charismatic the way it comes off, and that relationship that he has with Bella, Ramsey, it's so sweet because it starts off where they're kind of butting heads, and she's like that ruffian, that kind of a little similar to how she was in Game of Thrones, but it's when you start to see the softness of her and you see the bonding between these two characters, it reads more, and you get more attached to these characters, and it's just really fantastic all the way around.
I agree. And it's actually, that's a good scene that you mentioned to illuminate what I was saying with it. So, yes, they took a lot of that from the video game, even the point of view where you're seeing what's happening from inside the truck. That's that's how it was in the video game. You're seeing the chaos. So that is taking elements from the game and translating it over. But then that changes again, like that when that part where the airplane crashes in the game, that's what leads to them crashing. So when I'm seeing the airplane coming, I'm like, this is the moment that the airplane crashes, and they still haven't crashed. So they switched how they actually come to crash. So that surprised me as a viewer. So even though the rest of the scene was exactly the same to give me that nostalgia of the game, they switch it enough to keep me off my toes because I know what's coming. So, and I'm excited for season 2 of this one. Also, I will be curious how much they're going to change because the second game is a great game, but there's some story elements that were highly controversial and got high pushback from fans of the video game. And there's a lot of fans of the video games who ended up not liking The Last of Us 2, not because it wasn't a good game, not because it was a bad story told, but because it's not the story that they want it to be told.
Mm.
And that's where you get a difference. And we see this all the time in movies where sometimes you have to ask people, did you hate the story because it was a bad story and there was bad story elements in the way it was written? Or did you hate it because it's not how you would have told it?
Yeah.
And a lot of people can't separate that. I think it was told well, it was written well, and it made sense, but it's
Hmm.
not the direction that people wanted, and that's why I got that hate. So I'm curious what they will do with that in the show. Will they cater to those people and change it up, or will they still go through with those certain elements that were controversial?
Yeah, I agree with that. And then my thing too is like if you're the video game player and then you're watching the show, why would you want it to be the same? Like you already did it. You already played it. Let's get something new. It's a different it's like a different interpretation of it. And I think that's the whole idea of it, is that when you're adapting something, you don't want to see a carbon copy of it. Like you want to see a different, somebody else's perspective on this and see if there's room for improvement. And guess what? If you don't like it, go back and play the video game again. Like it still exists. You're not wiping something out for something else to be created. I think that's really important to keep in mind as well. So again, not having played the video game, I thought the show was great. I'm super excited for season 2. I believe they're already filming. Yeah, they're already filming it, I think, right? So
Yeah, I think it got delayed because of the strike, but I think they're
yeah,
back on it.
yeah, I think they're back at it, but I'm excited for it.
My show that I have next, I was debating between a few shows, but I had to settle on this show because it was different. Some of the other ones, and it's gonna be Beef on Netflix. This is
That's mine too.
starring
I have that one too. That's my second
starring
choice.
uh
Yeah.
starring Ali Wong and
Hmm.
Stephen Yen
Hmm.
from The Walking Dead. Since we mentioned that show earlier.
Hmm.
Basically, the concept of this is you have a road rage incident that puts two characters in pretty much a war that just continues to escalate when they just can't let it go. Their pride is too much. Bringing consequences not just to them, but to those around them. And when I say things escalate. This was just such a good dark comedy, and I really like dark comedies are some of my favorite type of content when done well, where there's a good balance between them. You get very strong performances from Ali and Steven. The story is engaging and it keeps you interested on how far these characters will go while also diving into like the psychological aspect, the internal struggles that uh, shows you why these people are shaped the way they're shaped and what is their driving their actions. This show does a good job of showing that where these characters and a lot of the characters in there are gray area characters. There isn't characters that are not flawed, but there isn't characters that are fully bad either, for the most part. You got a couple stragglers here and there. So, and you also get a good balance of the drama and the comedy to the point where the comedy does not feel forced.
Yeah, I agree with that. And so a show like this, you would not imagine that it would be this deep and this detail and this phenomenal. I had this one as my second choice as well. Shout out to Ali Wong, man, because she was a comic. She was a stand-up comic. And seeing her in these acting roles that she's doing now, she's really damn good, man. Like she's really good. And they're both, I believe they both won the Golden Globe, I think, for the show.
Well deserved then.
Well deserved, exactly. And it's great to see that because she is very, very creative. She's a true artist in this. Steven's phenomenal. Like we've loved him since the beginning. But this show had so many layers to it. And when you hear something of just a road rage incident, you think, how are you gonna have like a this, I think it was 6 parts or something, like how are you gonna have this limited series? Like how are you gonna have multiple episodes on this? But when you start to watch the movie, you see how it's tied in and why it keeps going back to what it is because these characters are going through their own trauma and their dilemma and they're using this road rage. It's obviously wasn't about the road rage incident, right? There's obviously other stuff behind it, but you're seeing how they keep putting it in the forefront and it goes really dark that I didn't expect it to go. And Allie's character starts to go down this path where it's just like, whoa, I didn't know she had it in her. Right. And then as you start to find out with the Steven character, your first instinct is to think, oh, I feel bad for him. But then when you start to see his lifestyle as well, you realize he's kind of a jerk as well. And it's really I just think it's a really dope way how they really caught the dichotomy, like how you have this duality between these two, and you see the merging of them and how they become involved in their chaos. It was done really well, very well
I
done.
think one of the things that the show deserves is flowers for is the
Hmm.
fact that it's a very diverse cast.
Absolutely.
Uh, and they were able to do that in their storytelling without uber focusing
Hmm.
on the regular like stereotypes and things like that. That the cast and the characters are diverse, but
Yeah.
you're not over focusing on that. They're just everything feels normal, natural. They're just living their life and they include those elements without screaming at you like, hey, look,
Yeah.
diversity,
Yeah.
culture, this, that is no, the focus is on the story, and there happens to be diverse people experience this, and it
Mhm.
shows you like just because you do have a variety in the diversity, it doesn't mean that they're not going to experience the same things that anyone else is going to experience. So you don't have to change it up too much
Yes.
because humanity is humanity, and trouble and things like that is going to affect everyone.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be on the nose. Like it's like that's what I consider the low-hanging fruit. Because you have diverse people. Well, now it's got to be about diversity. Like, it doesn't have to be like that's low hanging fruit. Then it's not truly made for diverse people, right? Because then when you're dealing with like what you just said right now, when it's with the everyday life, that's how you get past the stigma of diversity is by making it not about that.
I'm gonna throw an honorary
Yeah.
mention out there
Okay.
to replace the one I stole from you. I'm gonna have to throw out Gem V, which is on Prime.
Gen V's
Uh,
great. Yeah.
yeah, so this stars Jazz Sinclair, Liz Broadway, Maddie Phillips, London Thor, Derek Lau, and Chance Perdomo.
Hmm.
This is a spin-off of The Boys that serves as a connection between, I think it's season three of The Boys and season four of The Boys is
Hmm.
coming out. So it kind of serves as a bridge between that. Uh, what I like about the show is it kept the no holds bar that you get from The Boys
Hmm.
while giving us, more interesting flawed characters to add to the ones that we already had in The Boys. And one of the strengths of boys again is those gray area characters because everyone has flaws. No one
Hmm.
is perfect. So I like it when shows that everyone has the positive and the negative sides of them because it replicates real life a lot better. And that's what the boys has been good for. And Gen V was able to do that in a different context. And even though it connects between both seasons, it can stand on its own. And that was one of the things I was worried about, but it executed that and makes me look forward to what's next.
Yeah, it kept the same quality of that The Boys is because we're a huge fan of that show. And with Gen V, I was curious how that was gonna turn out, and it was fantastic. There's a big compliment to it, and there's a little parts of this negative part is the fact that it's the college based.
Hmm.
You have a younger set of characters. The powers were really cool. I love the power choices that they use. But what I mean about that about the college thing is that I love that they were younger and they were dealing with the college atmosphere because it made the stakes very different, a little more smaller scale, but I appreciated that. The where I saw a little bit of issues with it is that they had a lot of like scenes and jokes that were very college based and that sometimes it felt like it was too much. Like, okay, now you're just doing certain things just to push it that the boys didn't necessarily do. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
sometimes they did a little too much college stuff. Like, okay, I'm not trying to watch a National Lampoon's College movie here. Like, I want to watch, like I'm a grown up watching this. I want to get a little more grown up adult humor or at least content. Sometimes I felt like they went too much and they were pushing the limit just because it's college, this is what they're doing. It's like, okay, but I don't necessarily need to see that. Like I just, I get it. They're in college.
And no, and I definitely do see that. And I feel that's always a risk when you are doing uh anything that includes comedy that revolves around a college setting, that's always a risk, is
Yeah.
finding that right balance. Because I remember my time in college and things like that within the mindset of a college student, a general college student.
Hmm.
Those are the jokes. Those are
Yeah.
they are. But that's not the general audience that's watching
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
overall. So you always got to find that balance. So I do see what you're saying.
So another honorable mention was the Fall of the House of Usher. Fantastic.
Yes.
Mike Flanagan did it again. Like it
Did
was
it again.
did it again. I actually really love this one, and it's like I put it neck and neck with his first one with the Haunting of Hill House. So like I thought it was fantastic. I'm a huge Edgar Allan Poe fan, so this was right up my alley. I thought it was fantastic, and it was just I'm very excited to see what else he has in him.
Yeah, he has not failed me yet. When this came out, I was really anticipating it, and when I started watching it, I I got consumed so much by it. I lost some sleep because I was binging the crap out of that. I knocked this show out in like 2 days because I
Yeah.
was just like, I gotta see the next episode. I gotta
Mhm.
go. So that's definitely a great mention. We're limiting ourselves to a short list, but there are other great shows outside of the ones that we're naming now.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay. So let's get into one that to avoid. Was there a show that you had high hopes for? You started watching it and you just thought, not quite for me. I'm out.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. There was a few, but I'm gonna focus on
Hmm.
one. Who knows? This might be the same one that you have in there, and I'm gonna go with Marvel's Secret Invasion.
Oh,
Uh,
that one was. I have a different one, but yeah, that
it
one
was gonna be a
definitely.
one. When I first saw that trailer and it looked like, oh, okay, this looks more gritty, darker,
Hmm.
more grounded. Like that first trailer, it brought me back to like Netflix Marvel days
Hmm.
with like the Punisher and stuff, and then Daredevil. I'm like, ooh, okay, we're gonna kind of get into that. And the premise was there. The execution just didn't. There was really good moments throughout the series, just
Hmm.
not enough. You had really good character interactions and conversations and well acted scenes, but there just wasn't enough. It felt like they held back.
Hmm.
It felt like they were hesitant, and then it felt like they did not know how they were gonna stick that landing in their
Yeah.
shows because they fully stumbled the landing at the end,
Hmm.
and all any little goodwill they might have earned in some of the few first episodes, they completely destroyed at the end.
I agree. I was very, very excited that they casted Daenerys. So when they brought her on this, I was like, yes, please. I every time I think of the show, I think of that one scene towards the end where you see her with just like a beefed out strong arm.
You know what that reminded me of?
Where
Uh, 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 Family Guy, where
yes. Yeah.
what's his name? The
Yeah, the
neighbor
one strong arm.
Giggity.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one strong arm. I
Yeah.
could not stop picturing that when I see her with her one all Hulk arm.
When I saw that, I thought it was so ridiculous. It was like cringe because I'm like, who saw that and thought like people weren't gonna laugh at that? Like you tried selling us this and saying this is good content? Like, come on, you had to know better. That was ridiculous. Yeah, that's the image that pops in my head every time I think of that show, and I'm thinking, ugh,
And
you're right.
they what's her name? I always call her Robin from How I
Oh,
Met Your Mother.
Kobe Smothers.
Kobe Smuller, they fridged her
Yeah,
in this show. They
yeah,
fridged her, and the payoff was not worth
at all.
eliminating such a good character, but
Yeah,
they eliminated her to progress Fury's story,
yeah,
and it wasn't worth it in the end.
yeah. I agree. Okay, so here's a show that I had. I thought about that one, but I figured you were probably gonna say it, so I just went with something different. I went with the show Shrinking. I
Oh, I haven't
didn't
seen
vibe
that
it.
one. I
Yeah,
almost watched it.
so this is one that was on Apple TV. It's starring Jason Segel, Harrison Ford. It's a drama. It's about a grieving therapist starts to break the rules by telling his clients exactly what he thinks. Jimmy has lost his wife and wants to try a new approach to his loss, but is unclear how this will help others. So I love Harrison Ford, and I was excited. It's like, hey, he's on a TV show. Like I've never seen him on a TV show. Like
And
I was,
Jason Segel's good too.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He's good. But the thing with Jason Segel is like I've seen good Jason and I've seen some bad Jason.
Mm.
Not that he's necessarily a bad actor. Like I wouldn't say that because I've liked him in, in some things. It's just it just really depends what his surrounding cast of characters are. Harrison Ford and him just didn't have great chemistry to me. I didn't even finish the show. I saw about 3 episodes I went in. I gave it the old, you know, honest attempt, where you kind of, what we do, like the hit it or quit it attempt. And I was just like, I'm out. I just couldn't really quite vibe with it. It seemed like Jason, he's not really leading man type. You know what I mean? Like when you see him, he was great in forgetting Sarah Marshall, but it was the surrounding characters that helped elevate him. It was
True.
hard for him to do it on
Facts.
his own. And in this show, he doesn't have that. It wasn't that type of comedy. So I just felt like he didn't have the right supporting cast to really help him, I guess. And it just didn't really. I didn't really vibe with it. I was disappointed. I thought I was gonna dig it.
Okay, well, that tells me a lot. I was curious because of the concept,
Hmm.
but the trailers never sold me enough for me to be like, I need to watch it now. It became of like, hey, I think eventually I might give it a try. It seems my spidey sense when it came to that show probably was correct.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
uh, real quick, without extra information, some other shows that I had here for the quick avoid. Some honorable mention: Citadel on Prime. Very disappointing considering that was Russo brothers. It was no Extraction. I'll tell you that much. So that was disappointing. Continental, the spin-off from the John Wick series. How do you make a spin-off from a John Wick series boring? They'll show you how. Uh,
Yeah.
And then Fubar with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Although I never expected it to be great, it just ended up being too silly. Maybe for some people it might be good, but that was a disappointment.
Okay. Fubar, I saw it. Same thing. My Spidey sense was telling me I don't think I'm gonna dig this. I never did.
I checked it out just because Stallone's show surprised me. The
Yeah.
one that he has, I forget what it was called, uh, but that surprised me. So I'm like, maybe Schwarzenegger will have a surprise show. Nope,
Yeah.
didn't
No.
work.
Yeah.
Uh, I,
Instead, his son Schwarzenegger was in Gen V, and his show was better.
true. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. With that being, so we let you guys know some of the shows to catch, some of the things to avoid for 2023. But now we are in 2024. So, damn, what's a 2024 show that you're looking forward to and are really hoping it's as good as you think it might be? For me personally, the I'm looking forward to the Penguin that's coming out.
Yes.
In the Batman, he's one of the characters that really stood out in his limited screen time. Colin Farrell made this character as intriguing and interesting as beyond what I thought he would have been able to do. That I want to see more of this character. And the fact when I found out he's getting his own show, I was like, yes, give me Penguin. Let me know. Let me see him handling this underground worlds, outside of focusing on Batman. Let me see that inner working with the mobs and the mafia and him maneuvering around that. Like I want to see that. So that's the one that I think I'm looking forward to the most.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah. Absolutely. That one I'm super excited to watch. I think it's gonna be fantastic. I mean, Colin is such a great he completely fell into that character. He felt like a real person. Like he doesn't even look like him at all in prosthetics. I think it's gonna be great. I'm excited for that one. All right, so obviously, me being a huge Alien fan, the Alien TV show, if it actually comes out this year, as I'm hoping and anticipating, I am hoping it's sort of soft launching the movies that are going to be coming out. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know too much about the show, but the fact that you're dealing with xenomorphs and everything, I'm in. I think it's going to be great. I I hope it's gonna be great. Okay. I can't think that it's gonna be great because we've seen a lot of bad executions with what they've done with my poor Xenomorphs. But I'm excited for it, man. I'm always gonna watch them. I'm gonna watch every single Alien movie. Like that's how much I love, the franchise is that I'm gonna watch it regardless, even if they suck. I'm just gonna keep going back and back, just like Jurassic Park. I'm gonna keep
in
going
Predator.
back
It's
every
like
time.
Predator.
Predator, right? I'm gonna go back every time. Every time you got me again, hoping that it's gonna be like a Prey. Like just we're like it's a surprise. Whoa, this is way better than I thought. So hopefully this one is.
And I think what's interesting because this one is, at least from the limited details they put out there, supposed to be a prequel.
Hmm.
And it's supposed to possibly deliver what was promised. I think it might have been Alien 3 or was it Resurrection? And one of them, remember there was that promise, that hint of going being on Earth for it. I think they even had a tagline at that time where they played off the maybe like on Earth they'll hear you scream or something like that. So this is gonna take place on Earth supposedly
Hmm.
in there. So that changes the dynamic a little bit, gives us something a little bit different. But like you, I'm hoping just like the movie, put the focus on the xenomorphs, let them hunt and let people be scared.
Please let them eat. Let them feast. Let them feast.
Exactly. Do not give me the meaning of life in this TV show.
No, I don't need the meaning of life. So, okay, what is gonna be a guilty pleasure show for you? What skin is that? Is there one that you watch that you're like, oh, I shouldn't have?
From 2023, I did have a guilty pleasure, and that was Twisted Metal on
Hmm.
Peacock. This stars Stephanie Beatriz, Anthony Mackie, and Nev Campbell in it. Post-apocalyptic world. It seems to be a theme last year with the post-apocalyptic world with some of these
Yeah.
TV shows,
Yeah.
where society has kind of walled off their cities and let the criminals roam outside of the cities. I'll call them into the Badlands, where there's no real law. In the middle of this, you have delivery drivers that pretty much they have to navigate those Badlands with all the criminals in order to deliver goods from one city to another. And that's kind of what it revolves around. Anthony Mackie is one of those drivers. Um, this was just fun. It has its flaws. I will admit it. It has its flaws. This is why it's a guilty pleasure, but it knows what it is. It doesn't take itself too serious. It's an easy watch where you can just sit back and just enjoy the ridiculousness. And there are a couple of moments where they actually hit some good emotional beats. Like I didn't think ever in a movie, uh, like I would feel sad or emotional over a car, but this movie managed to make me feel that way. So they even sprinkle a little bit of that amongst the chaos, but it was just such a fun show. It had no business being as entertaining as it was.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I saw, so this one's a truly guilty pleasure. I watched it. It's not good. It's completely terrible. I don't recommend anybody to watch this, but it was one of those ones where we just put it on and I just got stuck watching it. It was a reality show. It's a show called Traders, hosted by
Wait a
Alan
second.
Cummings. Hosted by Alan
Is
Cummings. It's like basically people that are like conniving. It's basically, remember how we played that card game, the werewolf? Remember
yeah,
that? It's like that, where you have a couple people that are the ones that the rest of the people are trying to figure out, and everybody's sabotaging, they're trying to sabotage challenges or whatever it is, and they have
reminds
to
me of the
guess who it
thing.
is.
Remember the
Yes,
game we played, the
exactly.
thing, where
Yes,
one of us is technically a
it's
traitor?
it's like that, and you're trying to identify who it is, and if the people guess it wrong, then that person's sent home, and you keep doing it as like elimination game. It's ridiculous. It's stupid, but like I like I like competition and those type of games where you're trying to identify who's it. And of course, we love the thing. It's like it caught my interest. I binged it and I was like, okay. Then like I moved on in life. I don't ever need to mention this. And now here I am on the podcast talking about it.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't even know about this show, but if I would have heard that concept, I would have been like, okay, I might check this out.
Yeah, it's not bad. So like it caught my interest, Jose. So it caught my interest more than shrinking did. So like there you go. Yeah. Other than that, I hope everybody liked what we had to say today. There's a lot of strong recommendations there, so that's basically what's on the queue. Is if any of these shows sounded interesting, let us know in the comment section if you've watched it, if you've liked it, if there's any that we should check out that maybe we missed out on. Let us know.
Yeah, and now that we're in 2024, always tune in at the last day of the month or the first day of the month for our Stay Tuned episode where we do the research and let you guys know about some of the new shows that are coming out. And maybe at the end of 2024, when we do the next iteration of this episode, you might be with us on some of the shows that came out this year.
Exactly. So thank you for watching another episode of Not a Strong Start. You can like, comment, subscribe, share on the YouTube channel, Not a Strong Start. You can listen to us anywhere you listen to your podcast. You can follow us at Instagram and Twitter, Not a Strong Start. I'm your host, Daniel, period. You can follow me at King underscore Sangre.
I am not your host. You two come in, you stay out. You can find me at This Is Mi Nombre on Instagram.
That reminds me of the half baked, the F you, F you, F you, you're cool, F you, I'm
That's what I
out.
was gonna put originally, actually.